How do you set your boundaries with your wife without pissing her off, making you seem like a jerk, and trying to control her? And yet, if you don't set those boundaries, she will lose respect for you. This is the most common question, or one of the most common questions I get in my marriage mastery program. I'm not gonna lie to you, it is the hardest skill you'll ever have with her in the marriage or relationship. So to answer this one, I'm gonna be a little bit different in my approach here. I'm gonna give you an example of a recent client in my marriage mastery program. The example he gave us on the group call with a current situation he's having with his wife that you could probably relate to, and how I helped him deal with it using the middle path. Now, one of my clients the other day, he said to me on our group call, I do Q&A with the guys at the very end of the call, answering all their questions. He said, Josh, I'm still living with my wife. Okay, still in the same house with her, yet she wants a divorce and she's having an emotional affair with another guy. Now, he still obviously wants to save the marriage because he's in the program, but where he's really upset, why he's bringing this to me, is that his wife is texting the other guy in front of him. She's getting these responses, she's like laughing about it, and he is just like, every ding on that phone, it's like just a dagger to his heart, he said. He's like, what do I do? Because he's afraid. If he exerts his boundaries, she's called him controlling before, he worries that she'll be like, you know what, fine, you're gonna try to control me, I'm just gonna leave then. Leave the house, get with the other guy. But on the other end of things, he hates it. It's killing him inside. And to not say something, it feels like he's allowing her to walk all over him. So what does he do? Before I teach you the middle way, I'm gonna expand on those two paths, because most men, it's that binary decision. I either exert my boundaries, she calls me a jerk and I push her away, or I say absolutely nothing, I suck it up and allow her to treat me however she wants. And both those approaches are wrong. There is an alternative path, but you have to recognize that you have this black and white thinking, and that in itself is part of the problem. You're not seeing this alternative option. Now, the middle way is a concept in Buddhism to reach enlightenment. Now, I'm not preaching here, I'm not being religious, it's a little out there, but just trust me and follow me along this journey, and I guarantee you at the very end, you'll have clarity in how to deal with any situation when it comes to boundaries. So this idea of Buddhism, at least in the context of the middle way, was that different Buddhist schools of thought came up with different ideas on how to reach enlightenment. There was this complete ascetic version of life where you withheld any and all pleasures of life. You're like, you know what? I'm gonna withhold from being with women, money, anything. I'm gonna have no attachments, and therefore if I have no attachments or things I desire and crave for, then I will have no pain and I will reach enlightenment. A lack of attachment means a lack of suffering, and I touch with the divine Godhead. That's one idea. And then there's some other school of thought that says, no, be hedonic, which means like go into the pleasure. You have this one life, just like nothing really matters. It's nihilistic, right? There's no purpose to life. Just enjoy these pleasures. It doesn't really matter. Take life to its fullest. And that's how you truly reach enlightenment. And there's these two dogmatic schools going back and forth trying to say, what is the real way to Buddha, to the Godhead, right? To enlightenment. And whether you believe in Buddhism, Christianity, I know a lot of Christians watch this channel, I grew up a Christian myself. I think all these religions have a connection with truths about reality, truths about the self, truths about relationships and how to interact with yourself from a higher place of love, your higher self. And this middle way is one of those paradigms, and I'm gonna apply it to this context of boundaries and personal self-care and getting your needs met in the relationship context. Now, the middle way says it's not one or the other, that you don't have to be completely abandon all pleasures, like, you know, be single the rest of your life, go live like a hermit, you know, in the trees and the mountains and completely just abandon life. That's not the purpose. You might as well just not be here. And on the other end, you can't find salvation and enlightenment through this excessive yearning for more money, more food, more excess, more women, more this, more that, because ultimately it goes into the realm of hungry ghosts, which is this idea from Gabor Mate. He talks about how there's this realm where these like unsatiated monsters that just have these giant stomachs, the more they eat, the more they get these pleasures, the more hungry they get. And that is the path of addiction, right? You can never have enough. He said that you should live the middle way, that you can be in life, but not be of it, which basically means that you can have these pleasures, but not define yourself by them. That see that they come and go and that you will always want more, but you can still enjoy them. Now, how does this relate to the context of what I was telling my client here in the Marriage Mastery Program with boundaries? Well, there is this middle way when it comes to setting these boundaries with his wife. Now, I want you to imagine right now, there is this treasure map. And on that map, finding X, finding the treasure is the answer to this. But I can't just tell you the answer. You're gonna hear the answer in this video, but we have to answer some questions, because if I just gave you the treasure map without answering these questions, it'll just be a blank map with an X. You won't have the actual territory, and so you'll get lost. You'll run across obstacles. But by answering these questions in this video, in regards to this boundary conversation, you start to see that the path gets laid out ahead of you, okay? And you'll get actionable steps along the way. So let me tell you the questions you should be asking yourself with any boundary conversation to know how to apply this middle way to reach enlightenment with your relationship. So what I asked my client, Brent, is, the first question was, why is she doing what she is doing? Now, when most people, they have their wife or girlfriend do something to them, when she was texting this guy, he might say, well, because she's being mean, or she just is angry at me. And he knew immediately when those words came out of his mouth, it wasn't true. He had enough of the course understanding to know that she was doing this as a test to see how he would react. So I asked him, I said, Brent, why is she testing you? Cause Josh, she wants me to be unreactive. She wants to know that I can actually assert my boundaries and not get controlling. It's because she sees me as controlling, therefore she's gonna do things to test that controllingness to see if I am still changed, or if I change, or if I'm still the same way. And he said it with that demeanor, and everyone was laughing, but he's like, dang it, you're right. Like, I know that's exactly why. But if he went with his gut instinct and just responded to his old MO, he would have pushed her away for sure. He would have been controlling. But the fact that he knew why she was doing what she was doing was because of a test. He was able to then be unreactive and recognize he wasn't gonna go to his old default action and prove to his wife, yeah, you haven't changed. So her action of texting him in the same room was to get him to react. And so the first step in these boundary conversations, whatever the context of your boundary relationship issue is, you don't react. The second question you must ask yourself is, how is she feeling during all this? Now, the gut instinct, your ego will say, well, she's not feeling anything. She doesn't care about my feelings. I said, no, you're focusing on yourself, Brent. How is she feeling, you think? Underneath the facade, the veneer of who she's presenting to you, how is she really feeling right now? She probably feels confused. She's hurt. She doesn't feel secure. She's seeking safety. She doesn't know what's best for her. And the reason why that is because I wasn't there for her. It's like, Brent, this is why we ask these questions. You have all the answers within inside of you. It was brilliant. His wife was doing all this because she wasn't sure if she could rely on him or not. She wasn't sure if she could rely on this other guy. She was actually in a lot of pain and a lot of confusion, and her acting out was the best thing that she knew with who she was, to seek safety, to seek comfort. Now, obviously in the process it was hurting Brent, but she didn't know that because he never expressed himself honestly and vulnerably and exerted his boundaries in an assertive way, which I'll tell you in a second. The next question I asked Brent was, how do you feel about this? He's like, I'm pissed, I'm angry, bullshit, right? He went off and I was like, okay, good. Now that those emotions are out of the way, how do you really feel about it? And he told me, he's like, I'm hurt. I'm mad at myself for allowing our relationship to get to this place. I feel disrespected and resentful toward her and myself. Those are those core emotions you must acknowledge. And what most men will do is that they never actually dig beneath themselves and their consciousness to actually reveal those truths of that vulnerability. And so they act from that anger instead of that hurt. And what she gets are your spikes. She doesn't get the actual truth of your feelings about who you are, because you never learned to express those growing up, did you? And Brent started to tear up, right? And every guy in that call could relate to him, what he was going through. And he was able to process that pain. God, I'm getting emotional. He was able to process that pain on the call and work through it with us, with other men in the program. And he said he forgave her because he understood why she was doing what she was doing. And more importantly, he forgave himself. The next question I asked Brent after we got to that place of truth in his heart was, what does a perfect outcome look like for you? If everything is said and done, you can't just get her to stop texting this guy. Outcome in your control. What does it look like for you? Or a better way to ask this question is, the man you want to become, the highest version, the apex male in yourself, what does he look like? What does he do in this situation? His go-to response was, for her not to abandon me, for her to not leave me. That's good that he was able to acknowledge that fear. And what I did with him next is so simple, but so powerful. Whenever you have a fear, your brain can't tell the difference between what it wants and what it doesn't want. Those same things share your thoughts. You get what you don't want and you get what you want because you're thinking about it. And something as simple as going from, I don't want her to leave me, to I want her closer to me. When Brent approached that conversation with his wife, instead of thinking what he didn't want, reacting out of fear, negativity, pushing away, he was soft, open, grounded, and he expressed what he wanted, despite what she said. The last question I asked him was, how would she have to feel in order to listen to you? And he said, well, she would have to respect me and appreciate me. And before I could even ask him, he said, in order for me to do that, I need to be this high value guy. So when it came down to the conversation with his wife, he put all those answers to all the questions I just asked you in a conversation piece, right? He started off by saying how she felt. He said, I imagine you feel hurt, confused, lost, resentful, angry. After his wife agreed to him how she was feeling, he said, well, I need to let you know how I feel. He opened himself up and he said, what I would like for us is to get closer. I would like us to have a relationship where we respect each other. And in order for us to do that, I would like you to not text this guy when I'm in the same room as you. That's that simple. He made his assertion. He wasn't aggressive about it and controlling. He said, you need to stop doing this. You can't do that. He said, I'd like you to stop doing this. And because he led with how she feels and then expressing honestly how he felt, it opened her up. She heard him. She stopped texting that guy. Now, was it the step that got her back? Not yet, but Brent is still transforming. The guy lost like 80 pounds. throughout this program. He is a transformed man and his wife is getting closer to him. They are getting intimate. And that one step was monumental, more than I think he recognized in doing that. So when it comes to asserting your boundaries, it's about pausing, understanding the truth about why that person's doing what they're doing, expressing how you feel by digging deep to the truth of your emotions. And after you do that, you assert what you want in the positive. That is the most optimal way to express your boundaries without losing respect. Thanks for watching the video. See you in the next one.